All right, hey guys, welcome back to the REVan channel. I'm up here with Brian Wolf, and today we're going to talk about intake manifolds. As you can see, Indy Power Products, the first readily available production intake manifold for the 7.3, in case you don't want to use the stock intake with the funky angle on the throttle body there. We've been running this one, which is a billet intake, incredibly expensive, but it served its purpose as a test manifold, and Brian's done a lot of stuff with it. But Brian, tell us what's going on. We got a dual plane intake.
Yep.
It'll take, looks like a 4150 Holley carburetor or throttle body, and bolts on the 7.3, cast aluminum, and it's got a lot of attributes, right? And you've already run it on an engine.
Absolutely. So let's just talk a little bit about these three and like where people might want to change, right? So let's start with the stock intake. You know, extremely well engineered, CFD, really designed, you know, for that truck customer.
Right.
And with that, it's really hard to beat this intake if you're like at a motor that's going to be like 6,100 RPM or below.
Okay.
You know, make, you know, near 600 foot-pounds of torque, about 600 horsepower. It works really, really well. Very long runners in it, and long runners because of that Helmholtz resonator effect where you hear the tuning. This is all designed about that, and it works great. But let's say you do want an engine that you're going to be revving beyond 6,200.
Okay.
This intake, it's a dual plane, but even with the dual plane, it's got a 6 3/4 inch length runner, nice wide runners, and this will push the power peak out versus this intake probably around 500 to 600 RPM. That depending on what cylinder head I have on it, what camshaft I have in it.
Right.
Now, if you run a camshaft that's kind of optimum on this configuration, a little smaller, to take advantage of that 6,000 RPM power range, and you throw this intake on it, it's going to lose a lot of torque. Even though it's a dual plane, it's got those shorter runners. So it's going to lose, you know, significant amount of torque, and will come close to maintaining horsepower, but you'll probably even lose horsepower if you've got this engine designed for 6,000 RPM.
Right.
Now then we put a camshaft in it that's, you know, peaking around 6,700 to 7,000.
Right.
You know, then now you're going to start to pick up 20 horsepower. You're still going to drop off that torque at the low end, but you're going to start picking up 20-ish, maybe even a little bit more horsepower.
Right.
And it works really well. Now that's with this intake as designed, and you look at the inlet. Now if you start to modify this, take a mill, open it up, put a bigger throttle body in it, you're probably going to pick up more than that, I would expect. I haven't done that yet. If you go all the way over where this billet intake is, now this is the type of intake that you're going to see on a Radio versus the World, LDR, X275. You're going to be seeing billet intakes on $70,000 to $100,000 motors that are all out high competition. So we put this intake on with a large throttle body, and that intake will pick up versus this one probably another 20, not probably, I tested it, another 25 horsepower on top of this. Both of these lose significant torque, you know, below 5,500 versus the stock intake, just because it's designed so well with that Helmholtz resonator effect and really getting that charge crammed in the cylinder at the lower speeds.
Yeah, so these are obviously sexy. People want to modify the engine. We all like throwing aftermarket parts, but you also want the right combination of parts for your combination and your type of car. Heavy car, not as much gear, street car. You want that torque, and you're not concerned about making maximum power at, say, 7,000 or 8,000 RPM. And just to put that in like lay terms for those who may not really understand intake manifolds or cylinder filling, the general rule of thumb is the longer the intake runner, okay, that runner style or that manifold is going to be really efficient at filling the cylinder at a lower RPM. As you start moving up and shortening the runner, it doesn't so much change the long block or anything in the engine, but it fills the cylinder more efficiently at a higher point in the RPM band. And then you go to something like this that has an even shorter runner, like a Pro Stock engine would have, where you're spinning 10,000, 9,000 RPM. You need the engine to be efficient up there, so you use a real short runner, and it allows the intake charge to get into the cylinder and be really efficient, high RPM. So low RPM, mid RPM, high RPM.
Like,
is that right?
You know, a lot of these, you know, customers are putting these in 60s muscle cars, 60s Broncos, and you know, let's face it, you know, 550 foot-pounds of torque isn't insignificant. You'll compare that to a Coyote,
Right.
which I love a Coyote. This is nothing against a Coyote, but it's a lot smaller displacement. You know, that may make 425 foot-pounds of torque.
Right.
So even giving up that low speed torque versus this, the car is still going to perform very well. So if you want that nostalgic look, you want it, you know, to look like something that maybe is of the time period.
Right.
You put an intake like this on, you're still making good torque. You're still going to make great power, you know, and then you put these sexy valve covers on. You've got something that's going to look like it's period correct with
Sure.
all the modern technology and reliability.
Well, yeah, and this will accept a carburetor, a basic throttle body, or like a Holley Sniper, right, where everything is all in one. You put your 4 bolts in, you hook your throttle cable up, your fuel line, your electronics, and you're running.
Absolutely. Yeah, so this is a really, really versatile, you know, sand cast, made in the US of A, cast in the US of A, machined in the US of A. So again, a really nice product. And as you said, it's on the market, available today.
And I think the Indy Power Products website is up and running too, isn't it? So you can check them out online.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right, Brian. So another fun day up here in your shop. I always appreciate you having me. Some great intake manifold options. I love that this is cast. You could ice her up for a little extra performance or do some porting. Or I don't know if you're ready to give this one up. Billet. You'd have to get a custom one made yourself or run the stock one. So thanks a lot, man.
Yep, no, absolutely. Really appreciate you coming up and going through all this. Yeah, again, Indy Power Products. This is available today. It's a production piece.
Right.
If you're going up for the gusto and want a billet piece, Visner Engine Development is up and running, and be glad to make you one of those. Or if you're just going to keep using the stock one, because 600 horsepower and 600 foot-pounds is enough, and that packages in your car and looks the way you like it, you can still stay with the stock stuff. And again, Indy Power Products, their website is either already up and running, or Willis Performance is an Indy Power Products dealer, and our website's willisengines.com.
Awesome, man. So always a pleasure to hang out with you guys. We're maybe going to head over to the dyno and do some pulls on a 7.3. Thanks for chiming in. Make sure you subscribe and have yourself a great day.